Our last honoree this evening, Ellen Borowy Casey, was the school's first ever academic All-American. In fact, she was the school's first ever two-time academic All-American, winning the award back-to-back, and she was a co-captain on the volleyball team at Clarion. Ladies and gentlemen, Ellen Borowy Casey. It is on.
Thank you. First, let me just say, to have to follow all of these wonderful athletes and coaches, it's like, this is going to be tough, but I'll give it my best.
That's her subtle way of saying she's mad at me right now for setting the order.
No, because all of their resumes and their accomplishments are just incredible.
Well, please do not denigrate yourself, because you yourself had an amazing career.
I'm giving them their due.
Are we going to sit here and just fight about this all night long?
Sure.
Okay. So, like so many, one of the things that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago is you were really impacted by Fran Shope, and she was a really important figure here, not just at Clarion, but across the conference as an advocate for women athletics. Talk a little bit about the impact that you felt Fran had on you and on the program.
Well, Fran was the first person I saw when I entered the campus, and I came here a very precarious route. I wasn't first coming to Clarion. I was first going to John Carroll, and I ended up at Clarion because the coach was at John Carroll and she transferred here, and I really wanted to compete with this coach. So, so I show up. My mom, who's here, she drove me down to the campus from Ohio, and we get in, and Fran Shope says to me, "We're gonna first take you out to lunch." And I'm like, "Oh, sounds good to me." And she goes, she has a student athlete there, and she's like, "Take Ellen to Shangri-La." And I'm like, Shangri-La? So I was like, I'm really going to a fancy place. Well, that Shangri-La equaled Chandler Dining Hall. And if any of you guys know Chandler Dining Hall, it's basically, I stepped in, and it's like a long buffet, and it's like, shh, 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 shh. And then I'm like, oh no, this woman has a very sarcastic side to her. But she was very involved, I would say, and she was also very supportive. I mean, she started women's sports here really at the university. And I'll be forever grateful for the way she treated me when I came on campus and the way she supported a brand new volleyball coach when we first started the program, when she first started the program.
You were a team co-captain at a time when the program was growing, you were improving, and things were really happening quickly. What kind of memories do you have as your time as a member of the program?
Well, I remember the very first practice we had, and the program when I stepped into it was not a disciplined program, and the culture was there was really no culture. It was kind of like a club program, and I remember the very first day, Coach had sent out practice plans for the summer. And so she's like, I hope everybody did their practices over the summer. And then like all the people are looking at each other like, I didn't do it. And then she goes, let's start with just running around the gym. Now when you're in volleyball, what you do is you run around the perimeter of the gym, you loosen up and that. The girls just started running in all different directions. Like there was just nobody understood the concept. And of course I had this inside with the coach because she brought me along, and she looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, it's gonna be a long season. But we pulled it together. I mean, the first season or two was rough, but then by the third year, discipline of the program started to come together. She did some great recruiting. I mean, we had talked about Susie Sainer and Barb Buck. They got into the program, and we really started to gel to the point where we were regional ranking. One day we're at practice and coach is like, we're ranked regionally. We're like looking at each other like, our little team's ranked regionally? And yep, that's the way it was. But very different cultural shift, I would say, happened back in 1981. That's how old I am.
Let's talk about your road trip to Cortland, because you said that gave you a different perspective on all the things that coaches handle that maybe you didn't truly appreciate at the time as a student athlete.
Yeah, when you look back and you think about the way the coaches had to do so much in the early 80s, and I'm not taking anything away from coaches today. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into coaching. But, our coach was the Department of Transportation. She drove the van. She was the travel lodge, or the travel person. She made the, where we were gonna stay and where we were gonna eat. And then she was the snack lady. She was the one that put the cooler in the back of the van. And she just had so many roles. So we go on this trip. We're gonna go to Cortland. And we're leaving Friday morning, and we have let's say a 6 o'clock game time. And there's these two guys that kind of followed us around. They were totally infatuated with two girls on the team. They'd follow us around. They were called the road crew. And they would go driving around with us. Well, we stopped at a rest stop. We all get out. Ladies, we all went to the restroom or whatever, get back in the car, and Coach went to turn the key. I was like, but nothing, right? We're stuck. Now, think about it as a coach. She's on the road with 12, 15 girls in a white van at a rest stop. Back then, no cell phones. She had to, I guess, had a calling card. I don't know how she communicated to the school, let them know we're gonna be late and all of that. But here's a coach that now she's like, all right, I gotta just worry about getting these girls to the game, and then I gotta get the X's and the O's, and then are we gonna be able to check into the hotel before, like all this stuff going through your head, you think about back that she was going through. But anyway, so we were able to somehow, the two guys that were following us, they found a place. They drove ahead, and they found a place that could fix the van. So the tow truck comes, and all of us girls are in the van, and driving down the road in the tow truck, and we pull up. You think we're gonna pull up to like a gas station or something? We pull into a barn. I don't know where we were. We pull into this barn, and the guy's like, yep, I can fix it. I got the alternator, we can fix it. So we're standing there waiting. Now, while this is going on, the boys are like waiting for us. Like they're waiting, they're being gentlemen. There's another person in the car, that I find this out years later, saying, why are we waiting? Come on, I gotta get somewhere. Well, this other person in the car ended up being my husband, that guy over there. And he just wanted to get to Binghamton so he could party with some friends from high school. And I didn't know any of this. Until maybe like about 5 years or 6 years later. He goes, I was in that car. I'm like, you were? And I go, yeah. He goes, I was in that car. He goes, I wanted to go drinking with my friends in Binghamton. And I was like, not surprised. Not surprised at all. But anyway, but so you just think of all the things that Coach was going through to get us just to the competition. And all the stuff that happens at the competition is another ball of wax. But just to get us to the competition, and you just look back and you say, wow. And also us girls, we were just like oblivious to all the pressures that brings.
You ended up getting into coaching.
I did.
Later in that, did you have a different appreciation for it then?
The hardest part about coaching for me was to try to make every player feel they are making some level of contribution to the team every single day, because that keeps them motivated. So that was the hardest thing for me, is to look at every player and say, okay, what can I do to make that person feel like today's practice they contributed to the team, or at that game they contributed to the team, even if they didn't get to play. And I will tell you, my favorite moment as a coach, and my husband knows this because I say it to him all the time, was a senior night. And of course, high school sports, everybody plays on senior night. I put this woman in, this girl in, middle blocker. First time she's playing. And she gets up there and she blocks the hitter across the net. Very first time she's playing. And she turned over to the bench with just the biggest grin on her face and smile on her face. And as a coach, and I'm still getting goosebumps about it, because as a coach, that's what it's all about. And not only did she do that, and I was like getting goosebumps like I am today, every team member on that team was jumping up and down and saying, yeah, you go Stephanie, you go Stephanie. And it was just a beautiful moment. And it's weird because but it's something that happened 10 years ago, and as a coach, my favorite moment.
Is there anybody you'd like to thank or acknowledge here tonight?
Yes.
Ellen?
Thank you for letting me do that. First off, I want to thank my mom and dad who are here. Thank you for coming. They're the ones that taught me all about hard work. And then I got my 3 brothers here who, I will say, did not give me 1 inch when it came to competing. So we'd be playing kickball or whatever, and I wasn't given an inch. So thank you for doing that, because that made me as competitive as I am. Two women who were the first faces I saw on this campus on the first day of practice, Janet and Leanne. We've been best buddies ever since then. We had our ups and downs, as all friends do, but it's been just a wonderful friendship. Thank you so much. And of course, I have to say thank you to my husband, who is here. We met here at Clarion, and it's obviously that's why the school is such a special place in our hearts. And finally, Jack, wherever you are. My son couldn't make it from Seattle. Mom loves you. I'm sorry you couldn't make it, but we'll see you soon.
Ellen Borowy Casey, everybody.